My name is Lori Dumas. I am a judge here in Philadelphia. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a few words with you. I'm going to be very brief, and I'm just going to say this. I am a public servant. I'm a public servant that's been on the bench for 19 years. I'm competent, compassionate, and committed to serve all Pennsylvanians with honor and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you all. Last summer, George Floyd was allegedly murdered by police officers in Minneapolis. Since then, many citizens have protested, calling for defunding the police. How do you interpret that phrase and explain to the public how this phrase has been misconstrued?
I think the misconception is that on the extremist end, the understanding is that the desire is to take all of the money out of police forces and allocate it or reallocate it to other types of services or other places. I believe that the other side is leaning more towards not doing that. And so really the definition is in the middle, is somewhere in the middle. And the middle is public safety is very important. It's important to us all. But we all know that there needs to be reform as it relates to policing. And so defunding really means collaborate. Let's all come to the table. Let's decide what works, what doesn't, what's best for the people, for all people. And if that means reallocating a little bit to create services, then that's what we should do.
Thank you. How, as a judge, would you work to protect yourself and employees and the people who come before you during COVID-19 and during periods of civil unrest?
I definitely think that it is the responsibility of the judge to protect her staff. And while what I actually did was I made sure that I went out and bought all types of disinfectant and everything that my staff needed to feel safe while they were in the building. I also permitted them to stagger their shifts. But I also believe that it's important to listen to your staff. And if your staff feels that they are not comfortable with coming in, if they feel that they are not, they just, are uncomfortable, I think that a judge must be flexible, must listen to her staff, and must make sure that I am doing everything possible within my power to make sure that they're safe, because they're on the front lines. And that is whether there's a pandemic or whether there's civil unrest, they deserve to be made safe. And if it means having them work from home, then we should be flexible enough to offer them any type of alternative means to coming into work.
Thank you. Fracking is a challenging environmental issue here in Pennsylvania, balancing landowners' rights to develop their property, municipalities to regulate such development, and citizens who have an interest in preserving clean air and water is necessary. What's the proper role of the Pennsylvania appellate courts in this regard?
Yes, I think that my colleague, Judge Spurgeon, really hit the nail on the head. People's voices, they come to court. People come to court so their voices can be heard. And that's in any case that a judge actually is presiding over. And it is our duty to make sure that we are putting forth balanced decisions that are informed and rooted in the law, and also that are not impacted by any type of special interest. And so, we have to make sure that we are prepared when we take the bench, that we know the subject matter and that we know the law, and we can marry what we know about the subject matter as well as what the law says and make the decisions that represent the voice of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Porter Mitchell, please ask our fourth and final question for the Commonwealth Court.
Thank you. Domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking are issues of great concern to women in our society. Cases that involve state or local governments' failure to handle allegations of abuse by their employees correctly can be appealed to the Commonwealth Court. What would you do if such a case would come before you to protect the victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking?
Ms. Dumas, you have 1 minute to respond.
So in the Commonwealth Court, the cases would be that we would be dealing with systems that have failed victims. And so we really have to look at the system, at the practices, at the policies, and then we have to make the decision as to whether that entity actually violated the law. And if the entity violated the law, then as judges, we have to act. We have to enter decisions which make sure that the victims are protected, but not only that, that the systems change, right? And so we as judges, and I have worked significantly with victims of abuse because I've worked with human trafficking victims and domestic violence victims, because they're really all tied, it's tied together. And so working with stakeholders that understand the need for therapy and the need for all of the resources to come together in a multi-systemic situation to address the needs of victims when systems do wrong. It's our responsibility to help to make suggestions to fix the systems once we have ruled that those systems are broken.
Ms. Dumas, please give us your closing statement.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to appear and share our views tonight. Judges should be scholars of the law. They should embrace a passion for people and a strong work ethic, but they should also have the humility to never forget that we stand on the shoulders of giants, giants of you, giants of those in the Democratic Party that believed in us, and also those who came before us as it relates to the legal world that we're a part of. I am a product of a one-parent family, a mother who had no education and who valued education and she worked in a factory to make sure that her children had everything they needed to succeed. I, by no means, should be here before you tonight asking for your support, running statewide for an appellate court, no doubt. I too have been recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar Association, and I would like to take my almost 20 years of experience to the next level to make sure that Pennsylvanians are represented fully. Thank you so much.